Well, good evening, folks. Good evening, CFN. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I have to say that it was a weekend of all weekends this past weekend. Um, Unfortunately, I've lost a little bit of my voice. It did come back today, which is nice. But yeah, this illness, whatever the heck it is that I caught, believe it or not, in Chatham. I got it in Chatham because it was right after the Chatham show that this came on, and holy smokes, it has hung on. And for all those who are fighting it, had it, or know somebody that's had it, you understand the struggle this is. So hopefully we'll be able to get through. I'm not going to do as much of the talking, obviously, as our beloved guests. I know Jay has come ready for bear. He's got a whole bunch of stuff that's prepared for us. Lawrence is with us as well. And Jim, unfortunately, after I don't know how many years of using this computer that he has decided to go on the fritz and needs to be replaced. So Jim will not be joining us tonight. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'd love to give the guy a day off. He was busy all this past weekend. That was the Ottawa show. And one person that I desperately want to thank, who I had a great weekend with, was, of course, the one and only Steve Shaw, who's with us tonight. Steve and I had a lot of fun at the casting pond.
Welcome to the Ottawa Boat Outdoor Show.
Yeah, baby. Well, we are at Jim's casting pond, where you're not only going to cast for big prizes, but you're also going to see the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin himself.
It was, you know what? It's a highlight, this show. And I'll say this, it's because of what we do there. The kids' casting pond is such an attraction. It is, when you see the kids come around the corner and they see all the toys and they see the pond, the eyes just light up. And I'll tell you, there were so many really cool takeaways from this past show. I'm going to bring Lawrence in to talk a little bit more about that, but it has been a whirlwind so far. And Jay and I were just talking about the show season that is. Here we are in Chatham. We ended up at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show with OFC Nation. OFC Nation took themselves on the road to Ottawa at the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show, where we had a made in Canada tackle market and marketplace edition. It was added to the show, and those vendors that came, they all seemed very, very happy with the results. And I want to say thank you to JVM, Dynamite. I know there's people I'm going to miss, so and I forgive me for that because you are all very, very, very important. But the ones who took the time to come up after the event and say thanks, and very appreciative of the opportunity that Scott Sprague and his team at the Ottawa show provided us. It was awesome. But also what was really awesome was to see all the CFNers there. And Rob, totally understandable that you couldn't make it being out in Saskatchewan, but we thank you so much for making it tonight. Steve, as I said, can't thank Steve enough for just being a great friend, not just a great CFNer, but a great friend. Really enjoyed your time this weekend, Steve. It was a lot of fun. Corey, always a pleasure to see you out there on the West Coast. I don't think you've ever missed a show, to be quite honest with you. And Richard, you and Bernadette, awesome seeing you on the Saturday. Got lots of things coming with Richard, and he's a busy little beaver. He wants to get the CFN brand out there in a big way. So I'll do what I can to make sure that it happens, Richard, and that our community has lots of opportunities and lots of options when it comes to repping the brand. So thanks for that. Mikey, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you, my friend. Joe Vitani's in the house. How you doing, Joe? And Eve Bisonet, great seeing you as well. Eve, you actually came 2 days. You came Thursday and Saturday. So it was nice to see you on both days. So Eve, really appreciated you showing up. Walter, of course, held down the fort. Big shout out from both Steve and myself. Great job, Walt, holding down the fort while we were gone. You had some beautiful edits that both Steve and I reveled with as we had some time off in between the show. But it's a community effort, man. I'm telling you, it's a team effort. This is why it works. And if it wasn't, it just simply wouldn't work. Steve, nice to see you, my friend. Thanks. I have something that I did not bring upstairs. I want to put a lot of focus on this because this is something that is very passionate with for me, and that was about the poppy. I have a pet peeve that I can't wear a pop, or at least it's revered as disrespectful to wear a poppy all year round. Steve has gone above and beyond to make sure that we could do that, show our respect, and I mean, just our love for those who sacrificed in such a huge way for this incredible country that we call Canada and for everything that it represents. So, Steve, thanks so much for that, and thanks for your time. Bob Bizinet was in the house. Always a pleasure to see you, Bob. Didn't really get a chance. Steve and I both talked about it. Didn't really get a chance to talk to you, as you well know. Obviously, we were busy running around doing this, that, and everything else, but it was nice to see you there. Thanks so much, Bob. And of course, you're as much a part of CFN as anybody, but we really, truly that. And of course, you know, as Steve has put here, I can't thank the folks at the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show enough. They really extended the red carpet, and not just for myself and my CFN community, but our Made in Canada tackle platform. You guys went above and beyond. So Scott Sprague and his team, Bree as well. You guys did a phenomenal job. I can't thank you enough. Serena was there. Nice to see you, Serena. Thanks so much for showing up. That was an absolute honor to see you and Erica. Ashley, we were literally just talking about ice fishing, and funny enough, hot box huts came up. We had heard that perhaps there was some difficulty getting folks out this past weekend just because of the conditions. Jay and I are going to talk about that. So we'll love to hear your input on that. James is in the house. How you doing, James? Yes, Steve, great point. The presenters were fantastic. Didn't get to tape all of them, but those that we did, please go back and take a chance. Take whatever time you have. They're basically 45 minute to an hour segments. You had Jim Wilson. You had, oh my Lord, you had Lisa Goodyear. You had John Anderson. You had the one and only Greg Emile. Who am I forgetting? Lawrence did a presentation as well. Big Jim did a presentation. We taped all these, and these are all available on the CFN Facebook page. So if you get a chance, especially with some of them, like Greg Emile he is talk about in tuned to the fishery. Holy smokes. And the other thing that I learned this weekend, maybe somebody can fill me in. Maybe I'm the only one that didn't know this. Well, John Anderson talked about the migration of muskie and where they came from. I was shocked to find out that these fish actually originated down in the Gulf of Mexico and that they made their way up the Mississippi River. I didn't know that. Did anybody know that? Did anybody else know that? Grimsby Tackle, did you know that? Mark, did you know that? You put your hand up, so I'm assuming I'm just kidding. I had no idea. I had no idea they came up the Mississippi. Sean Quinn, how come nobody ever mentions how damn it? Oh, buddy. And you know what? I can't get. God love you, Sean. And I was just saying this to Jay. I said, you know, I've been lucky that I have a little bit of energy, but I didn't have to set up and take down like you and Moose did. So I had that luxury of not getting too tired. But I mean, hearing some folks that are taking 2 or 3 days off and the show season is just getting started. I understand the grind. I totally get the toll that it takes on people. And I'm empathetic to it. But I've had some great people that have helped out in a huge way. And Quinter, you and Moose did an admirable job getting that all set up at the spring show. Brad Frost, nice to see you, my friend. Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that either. It's really, really cool. Brad, what's up, buddy? Brad, he met us, and you were a big part of the kids' casting pond this weekend as well. Thanks so much for helping out in a big way, because I'll tell you, Steve and I needed the help. But the crew that was there, and of course I have a picture, I never downloaded it, but to Jen and Steve, who are, it makes our day to see them when Steve and I show up, because we know it's a team effort. We know that they are a huge help. Jen and Steve are probably one of the cutest couples you'll ever meet. I think they're 37 years in or something like that. I don't know if they've been married 37 years, but they've been together for 37 years. And I'll tell you, it's like their first date night. Steve and Jen are truly one of the cutest couples you'll ever meet, but also solid people, to say the absolute least. So awesome being able to share some of that time with them. Some of the notables and some of the more important things before we get to Lawrence's segment. Of course, this is our 10th anniversary here at CFN. Very, very proud of this accomplishment. And we are doing our darndest to celebrate this all year long. And one of the biggest initiatives that we're pushing forward with, of course, is the Derby on Wheels. When we announce the launch, which is just around the corner, of these incredible and beautiful CFN jerseys that everybody's going to have the luxury of ordering and having, every single penny, every last dime, nickel, dollar is going towards the Derby on Wheels initiative. So all of the proceeds from the purchase of this are going towards our Derby on Wheels initiative, which is basically CFN is going to purchase a trailer. The intent of this trailer is to stock it full of combos from a variety of vendors. Hopefully Shimano will have a good contingent of Shimano in there. The idea, of course, is it will be the means to which you will be able to host your own Derby. If you need worms, we got them. If you need a cooktop, we got them. If you need a PA system, we got it. If you want to broadcast to the world, we got Starlink. This is all going to be contained within the trailer, and we're going to be able to travel around, hopefully all over Canada with this trailer, bringing derbies to you. And so if you have thought about it, weren't really sure how you were going to go about it, but you have some kids, maybe you're a scout leader, maybe you own a marina or a cottage association and you wanted to get kids into fishing and you weren't sure how to do it, you thought you might reach out to Daiwa or Berkeley or Shimano and say, hey, listen, we're doing this. Have you guys got any ideas? Hopefully we're going to be that second call you make, and we'll be able to set it up and get it done for you. So really, really excited about that. Of course, would not be a typical Monday without talking about the CFN retreat. Between the 10th and 16th of August, we will be up there for the 7th year in a row. 7th year in a row. Horwood Lake Lodge is hosting the 7th annual CFN retreat. Please get a hold of Warren and Doris. Get your butt booked in a bed. Love to see you there. That's everything you need to know. And of course, it is Monster Monday, and it would not be a typical Monster Monday without featuring, of course, the wonderful, and I will say, hard to match Camp McIntosh. It is a truly unique experience where they're located, the fishery that they are encircled by, just the hosts, the food, the good times, the location, the stars, the wildlife, you name it. For $820, you can join us between the dates of September 24th and the 28th. We'd love to see you up there. Please get a hold of Tracy and Andre. We're going to be doing a lot of features as time prevails upcoming to try and feature Camp McIntosh in a huge way. Because even if you're not coming up to one of our retreats, we'd love to see you get up there and enjoy. So please reach out to Andre and Tracy and get yourselves booked up. It is going to be a great event. We are going to have a live on Wednesday. Not exactly sure if we're talking to the Elliott Lake folks about their ice fishing derby that's coming up or the Wawa folks. So I will leave that for the illustrious Danny to let us know who he spoke to this past week and who we should expect on Wednesday. But we will have a segment on Wednesday. And before we go any further, we bring in Lawrence. Let's take a Macintosh minute, shall we? There he is, the one and only Lawrence Gunther from Bluefish Canada, Bluefish Radio, and Lawrence Gunther Outdoors. It's always a pleasure to see you, Lawrence. It seems like just yesterday we saw one.
I know, and it was just yesterday. So, but you know what, man, it's always great to see you, wrap my arms around you, man. And you get to see me every Monday. I get to hear you every Monday, but it's great to bump into you.
It really is, Lawrence. I get the honor of I don't know what it is, but it's the city of Ottawa just represents a faction of CFN that I can't explain, and you are a huge part of it. Your family is a huge part of that. And so seeing you guys out there sort of, on display for the fishing community, for our CFN community, it's awesome. Like it's
they've grown up doing it. My kids have all grown up doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm going to hope that you're going to do a lot of the talking because I'm struggling to keep my voice, but
man. Yeah. Okay.
What were some of the great, you had a lot of people that came by the Bluefish Canada tent.
Yeah,
but what were some of the notables that you'd like to mention, and perhaps maybe mention a really cool takeaway?
Well, my really feel good moment from the whole show was just the amount of people that came to the Bluefish Canada table and said they want to volunteer, and they signed up. They put their names, their emails, they wrote on the back of the emails, want to volunteer, where they live, and popped it into our box. And we were just really collecting emails for the newsletter, but people said, no, I want to get involved. I want to help out with this. I want to help out with that. I want to get involved. And I haven't seen that in a few years, right? COVID really put a butt kick into volunteerism, and because people were nervous, and that's been a long time to recover from, but they're back. And I think too, maybe all this news, all this bad news in the media, and people are just tuning out of the news, like I am, just saying, I don't want to listen to the news so much anymore, and looking for something positive in their life, something they can do in a positive sense. And I really, really felt that this year at the show, that there is a strong desire of people out there to do something positive with their time. And take it away from less media, less on the screen, and more actually doing something. Did you feel that? Did you get that?
I did. It's almost like a swing of the pendulum. Like this pendulum's been swinging one way for so long, and all of a sudden COVID created that halt. Everybody sort of had to reevaluate what was important to them. And obviously the outdoors and getting outdoors and enjoying the outdoors was high on everybody's list. Hence the reason everybody went out and bought fishing gear, hunting gear, boats, motors, motorhomes, you name it. Obviously, now that things are back to normal, so are people's lives to a certain degree. And either they're going to revisit that in this coming year and maybe use the motorhome, maybe use the boat, or they're going to sell all of the stuff that they bought over COVID. So as I said, it's the pendulum seemed to swing one way, and it's now coming back. How that's going to look going forward, I don't know. But I'm thrilled to hear that you're excited about it. Yeah. I have a little sense of caution. I have some cautious optimism, if you will. But we're certainly trending in the right direction when it comes to growing the industry based on what we saw at the Ottawa show. We talked about it, Lawrence. That back room that we were all in never existed. That was closed off. In the shows that I remember 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. And now, just with your involvement, Jim's involvement, and quite a few others from the fishing industry's involvement, that little show has grown.
It was wall to wall, right? The whole building full. Yeah, full. I mean, I couldn't. Normally, I'm backing against the dividing curtain between the back room and the front room. This time I was right back against that end wall, and it took me a while to get used to that because I was facing the totally other direction. I realized nothing behind me except the outdoors, and it was full. It was so nice to hear the crowd coming in the morning and working their way through the boats and down to the fishing section. And I think the fishing section was really strong this year. And Scottie, we owe a lot of that to you. Yeah, there was Big Rito and Tackle Depot, and they had some huge presentations there. Tackle Depot, I bought 2 pairs But I heard today that they brought in 1,000 pair of hip waders. 1,000 pairs. They had it, and I don't know how many they sold, but they sold 2 to me.
They seemed very happy with the weekend. I don't think they hit the numbers that they hit last year, but when you hear the number of Garmin units that Tackle Depot have sold in the past year, it's staggering. I don't want to mention a number I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but let's just say 6 figures in electronics. You're doing all right. You're doing just fine. But to do 6 figures in Garmin alone, whoo-wee.
Yeah.
Well
Nice.
done.
Nice. Yeah. And look, when you can get pair of hip waders for $25, that's pretty good, eh? We need them up at the Bluefish Exploration Center, putting docks in, putting docks out, putting covers on pontoon boats and things like that. You need to get in the water. So it's great to have these tools of the trade. And, and I talked to Ben there at the Tackle Depot, and I just, we were telling him a little bit of what we were up to. And then he came over with a box, hang on, of baits for us. So that was fantastic, for him to he came out with a box of 3/8 ounce jig heads, pre-rigged with grubs, 450 baits.
Holy smokes.
I know. And I said, look, we can give you a tax receipt for that. And he goes, it's okay. He said, he said, that's fine. He said, I don't need it. It's fun. It's good.
Well, and that's the thing, Lawrence, and this is the part of these shows that I truly, I will say, this is what drew me in with the Made in Canada tackle platform.
Yeah.
When I see posts like this from Erica, where Serena and Erica both booked a fish hawk day out with Jim in July, our community is stepping up and helping out those who are part of the industry. And Erica and Serena, you're going to definitely love every minute of it. But thanks for doing that, because that's just showing support for our industry. And I can't force anybody to do that, but when I see folks do that, man, it means the world. And Lawrence, I'm sure you're the same. Richard also saying I purchased some Made in Canada fishing tackle that he was very happy about.
Yeah, we did too.
Again.
We went around it. We went through all the. That's a really cool setup. The way the fish and tackle, you got it all set up. You got one sort of vendor representing all the all the builders. So not everyone has to show up. Just send their products, and all the product gets represented. With a nice display and signage and so on. And then you get you buy from 2 builders, you get 10% off. You buy from 3 builders, you get 15% off. You buy from 4 builders, you get 20% off. So you're motivated to look around, right? And find products. And we found nice products. So it didn't take us long to get to 4 builders and a bunch of tackle from each one of them. So to get that 20% off, man, that was fantastic. And to know we're buying Canadian and quality stuff, what a great thing. That really got the buzz around Ottawa going. Is that fishing's back? Fishing is back, Scottie, and that was the buzz about the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show. Because you might remember it used to be called the Ottawa Sportsman and Boat Show, and then on the previous owners of the show, not the current owners, but the previous owners, people came, they didn't see any sportsmen, just boats, and they said, I want my money back. It's false advertising. You got sportsman in the title there. There's no sportsman here. It's just boats. So they had to drop the sportsman. It became the Ottawa Boat Show. And then Scott and his team took it over, and they put the fishing back. They brought the fishing back at Scottie, and like we've all been working at that, Big Jim and his pond, and us and their giveaways and so on. And you bringing in all the tackle people, man, that's just pushed it over the top.
Well, I will say none of that would have happened had it not been for the one and only Big Jim. I know he was the spirit, the one who really spearheaded this to get it going. And it was funny because Scott was very honest. Scott Sprague was very honest. He said, when Jim first explained it to me, he's like, no, we want a little bit more than just a tackle swap. And even Jim, he had to call Scott back and say, I may have not explained it correctly, Scott. And then when Scott found out what it was that we were doing, he was like, now, I think a lot of people's takeaway from the Made in Canada sort of movement, if you will, at the show was done so to sort of jump on the coattails of what's currently going on.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, guys, to be straight up honest, the Made in Canada platform came last year. For those who have been to our Woodstock shows and have known about the Made in Canada for a while, know that we didn't know what Trump. I had no clue what he was going to do. I know we may look like, I don't want to say heroes, but maybe we look like geniuses because we've come up with this when we've done. You can't, like Brad and I can't take any of the credit for it. It just happened that way. But I will say
it's good.
It has certainly gained popularity, notoriety, and interest from the community at large, simply because of what is happening. And hopefully all of us can reap the benefits of that. Not just the Made in Canada show, but all of the vendors. And on that, I will say the JVMs, the Dynamite Baits, the POWs, the Great Lakes Spoons, Firebrand. There was a host of representatives that represented our tackle guild, and it was such an honor to have them a part of that, and to hear the positive feedback like you just shared means the world, man. It means the world.
Well, you see these families there too, like with their 10x10 exhibits, right? They got the family, the husband, wife, kids, all they're selling. They're all there selling, and just fantastic. And you really want to support them, you buy it, even went over at the end there and I picked up a bunch of those grab bags. I say they're for the kids, and they were for the kids, but who doesn't love a grab bag, man?
100%. Now, you had the pleasure of being one of the presenters.
Yeah.
So I'll let you explain what it was that you presented at the show for those who didn't get a chance to see it and may not get a chance to see it before it's erased. And it gets erased in 30 days off CFN. So as I said, if you have an interest, want to get caught up, want to get some incredible information, please head over to all of the segments that were shared on our Facebook page, Lawrence being one of them. But also it was an update of what's going on at the Research Center. So from there, I'll let you take it away.
Well, we talked about the Bluefish Exploration Center and where we are with that project, and we talked about some of the other projects we're working on, like the Bluefish Explorer project for the Ottawa River and the St. Lawrence River. That's going to be launched this spring. We talked about Get Ready for Fishing, our newsletter, our podcast, the Bluefish Certified program. So, we touched on a bunch of things. It's I could get into it now, but go watch my presentation. I think it was maybe 15, 20 minutes. I have no idea. It wasn't long, but it gave you a good idea of what we're up to in 2025. COVID was a pause, couple of years of pause there. We stepped back, we went online 100%. We weren't applying for grants, and we weren't promoting, looking for donations. Everyone was focused on COVID relief, right?
Yeah.
So 2023 was our start of a rebuild period, and we're coming back. It's good. We're good. We're very happy with our progress. So very happy with that for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have to ask too, when it comes to the research, and of course this came from an epiphany that you had. You've always wanted to do this, and I know that.
Yeah.
But obviously, planets aligned, things that are just moving forward in the right direction. But I have to ask, what is your ultimate goal for the Research Center?
We want to research in the field two things. First of all, we want to give researchers the opportunity to actually work in the outdoors. They don't have that many opportunities. It's expensive. There's very few places where they can go, in terms of their budget. So we can give them a place that's budget friendly, next to free, or just, cost recovery. That's it. We can give them access to all the tools they need around the fishing equipment for going out on the water, getting samples. We can give them support from local experts, and we're bringing kids up there who are interested in this type of stuff, right? So we call it it's almost like a STEM camp, the science, the technology, it's all there, and so the big goals is, one, get young people excited about this and maybe give them career ideas about biology or conservation. Give the young budding scientists an opportunity to try and learn and do things in the field and learn to fish, actually spend time fishing. A lot of them haven't even done that. They love the science side, but they've never really fished. So that's a big step. And for us, for Bluefish Canada, we get a chance to really test out the latest technology and the latest science-based best practices on how to handle fish, like whether it's for catch and release or whether it's for harvesting, how to make sure you're doing it the right way, using the latest know-how, the latest, greatest knowledge from the people who fish, fact checked by the scientists, so that there's no fake news, fake information or wrong information being distributed out there. And then we'll be creating that into information packages, into videos, and into instructional materials, and into policies for fishing lodges who really want to make sure their staff and the visitors to those their lodges are doing it in the most sustainable way possible.
So true. And I will say, based on what I have seen so far, in the future, I think it's inevitable that we are going to have a CFN meet and greet retreat, whatever you want to call it, up in the Pontiac region of Quebec.
Yeah.
But having said that, with right now you have 2 buildings that are completely erected and ready for lodging.
We have 3 right now. We have a 1,700 square foot research station that can accommodate up to 10. We have 2 24 by 10 foot Amish bunkies that are fully insulated with propane heat and screened in porches that each one sleeps 6. We've got another 2 more exterior buildings coming in this spring. One's a 24 by 20 dining / meeting hall, and another is a 10 by 12 outdoor kitchen. And so we'll have the indoor kitchen in the research station and a meeting room in there that's 10 by 30, and then more rooms outside. So that way the research can go on, the food prep can go on several levels, and there's meeting space when the weather is bad, or when at night you got spaces to gather out of the bugs, out of the cold, and have those meetings, those important gatherings. Play games, exchange information, present, talk about what you discovered that day. A lot of that information exchange, right? So I guess in total there'll be a few buildings there, and we have some really nice canvas wall tents as well for overflow.
Very cool. Have you got an actual launch date, or is it still tentative right now?
I'm not doing dates anymore.
Yeah,
but it will be this year. It will be this year.
It will be this year. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I'm thinking to give you a little bit of time to give. You know what? Let's plan something for 2026. CFNers that are in the Ottawa region, you're going to love this because you're not going to have to travel near as far as some of us out this way. So you're going to have an advantage for the first time in a long time. So those CFNers that are from the Ottawa, Cornwall, Arnprior, what are some of the other areas out there?
Yeah, all the Gatineau and the Pontiac, Pembroke, Petawawa, Renfrew, all that area up there, right? And the thing about our region, you can go west of Toronto and down the Highway 7 and all the lakes down there, Charlotte and all those lakes, and they're all quite populated. And then you can go east into the Gatineaus, and all the lakes out that way are quite populated. But if you go north and head across the Ottawa River to the north side, North Shore, and you're into the wilderness, and then at some point it's just trails all the way to James Bay. Right? There's nothing north of that except trails and forests and lakes. And that's we're right on the edge of that. So, it's endless amounts of trails, and we have the vehicles to get you down those trails. We have kayaks, a dozen kayaks and kayak trailers. So, we're not just locked onto the one lake, which is a fine lake, but there's many lakes and rivers nearby that we will be accessing as well.
Cool. Well, as I said, really looking forward to this, but I will say, as much as I am in a hurry for you to see it completed,
I
think this is one of those situations where the journey is just as special as the grand opening. Am I wrong to say that?
Yeah. I mean, we were torn about documenting the journey, but it's not a do-it-yourself project, right? And it's not DIY. It's not flying by the seat of your pants. We have engineers and architects and tradespeople, and it's really we'll start filming once we're operating, and so people can see what we have and what there is, not how we got there. How we got there is a beautiful story too, but it's the process, it's not so much, that's not the story so much. It's what we're going to have and what we're going to be able to offer. That's the main thing. And we're super excited. Everyone's really excited about that, Scottie. Really, really pleased to have this opportunity to lead this project for sure. I'm really cranked, and it takes some equipment. And so, we're always looking for equipment, and but we've been blessed, really, really blessed. And I tell you, at the boat show this year, there was a lot of boats sold. A lot of boats.
Yes, and great. That's actually a great point that I forgot to mention. For all those who think that the boating industry is in the toilet, it might be in your neck of the world. It might be, but in Ottawa, it's alive and well. We saw firsthand probably $500,000 worth of boats sold this weekend.
Oh, I can't. I well beyond that. Well beyond.
Well beyond that.
Okay. Oh yeah. Like they were the marinas that were there were selling 10 plus boats, 15 boats each, and so I mean the numbers can get up pretty high, pretty fast. And what I think is going on, first of all, there's some great deals out there. And second, I think there's some people who are thinking, if I don't jump on something soon, this could go sideways, right? With tariffs coming on and next week, what's going to happen to, the cost of aluminum steel going into the States is going to go up by 25% from Canada. So then the boats are going to, become that much more expensive than ones that are made in the US. And then we'll probably put tariffs on some stuff coming back into Canada. So those boats will be taxed again coming back into Canada. So then what? You're just looking at Canadian boat brands, boats built in Canada. Well, a lot of those boats built in Canada depend on accessing the American market. And maybe our lower dollar will make them still affordable into the US, but it's going to be tough times for some boat builders. But I think all that to say, that the interest rates are a little bit lower, the prices couldn't be better, and people are thinking, man, I better jump on some stuff now, because once the what's in Canada now is bought up, getting new stuff into Canada from the US, I'm talking the Lunds and the Crestliners and all the rest of them, the Lows, and it's going to change it. I mean, these boats are all expensive now.
And I will have to say that the marinas that were at the show, like Hearst and Pirates Cove, and there was a few others that I can't think of, can't come to mind. They owe the fishing area big time for some of the feedback that we were providing their potential clients. Because I know we were, almost to exhaustion. We were telling folks, if you're going to buy a boat and it's going to be brand new, this is the time to do it. If it's here on the floor, buy it now. Because if you don't, here's what happens. And maybe we're talking about this, and maybe we should talk about this, Lawrence, so folks understand. When you buy a boat off a dealership, you are paying the today price. But not just the today price of the boat, but the components that go into it. Mm-hmm. If you order a boat brand new, like let's say you go into Pirates Cove or you go into Hearst Marine, you buy a boat from them now and you put it all together, you customize it, you do whatever. When that boat gets delivered, you then pay the price of what the boat is worth then. So in other words, if aluminum goes up in price, you're paying the difference. Mm-hmm. If any of the steel components, electrical components, or anything else that goes up during the process of building that boat, you pay the difference.
And the taxes, the cross-border taxes, right? That's all put on top of it, because it's plus tax.
Here's the kicker. This is the kicker. A lot of people don't understand the luxury tax, that there is even a luxury tax. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad for that gentleman. I think it was last year that bought the bass boat. Do you remember that?
No.
Lord. So that boat that was set up along the wall last year, I think it was a Ranger. He came the first day and bought it. I think all of us were like, that'll never sell. At that price, it's never going to sell. First day, put my foot in my mouth, it was sold. Yeah. But here's what happened. The guy came back after and realized that when he explained the price to his wife, he's like, wait a minute, that's a lot more. Like, what is this luxury tax that I'm paying?
Yeah.
and he came back and wanted to sell it. He wanted to get rid of it because he had no idea about the luxury tax.
And that's on boats over 100,000, I think, right?
That's right. And he anything that's purchased over 100,000, you pay that luxury tax. So not only are you paying all the other taxes, now you're paying the luxury tax. Now you're also paying the difference in the materials that go into the boat at the time that it gets delivered to you. If the boating industry was in troubled water before, or in the eyes of some, it will be, I think, going forward. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what we can do to really help that industry. We're doing what we can from the tackle perspective and the made in Canada producers. But I will say, from a boating perspective, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I'd want
I tell you, you buy a new boat, Scottie, the temptation to buy a new boat from a dealer, they're got some great prices on some non-current models and current models, great prices. They're in Canada already, so they're not going to get that, any tariffs applied to them. They're here now. And then you think about, should I trade in? Well, you trade in, you reduce your sales tax because you're only paying on the difference. But the value of used boats, because if the new boats coming in are going to be all of a sudden, boom, 25% higher, then your used boats are going to be, much more valuable, because people think, well, I don't want to spend that kind of money on a new boat. I'll buy something pre-owned, in good shape. So hang on to your used boats if you can, or if you're thinking, man, I know it's been a tough grind trying to sell some of these boats, but I think that's going to turn around too.
100%. Going back to the research center, Richard is pointing out something that I think if we do decide to do something in 2026, will you require a Quebec fishing license?
You will. Yeah, you will. So, but the thing is with Quebec fishing licenses too, you can get a family license, right? So it's good for you and your spouse and your children under 18. So you can all fish under one license.
Would that include a CFN family?
and you and me,
yes, exactly. Yeah, we all got to get on that. Absolutely.
You'll be my husband for the day.
Share it all. Jamie from True North says he was happy to see you win the custom ice rod at the.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my God! Okay, so we're getting these grab bags, right? And I didn't think about anything about any prizes or anything. I just think of the grab bag. Grab bag. Everything's in there you want. And I said, okay, pay the grab bags. I'm about to walk away. And they said, oh, you got to open the grab bags. And what? I said, no, yeah, open it. Tell my son, open up grab bags. I said, why? I said, no, we're going to wait for my daughter. Something for my daughter. We'll wait for her, and we're going to bring them home. And he goes, yeah, but no, there's ballots in there to win prizes. So Theo starts opening bags. I said, just look for the ballot. Don't go looking at anything else, So he pulls out the ballots. Another pack of lures. Oh, a hat. All of a sudden, oh, grand prize. What? Yeah, $150 custom made, beautiful lake trout ice fishing stick, man. Gorgeous. So that was my son was so excited. He was so excited.
I bet. And he's becoming quite the angler from what you tell me.
Oh yeah. He's watching a lot of videos, and he's actually building baits. He's 17 years old. He's building baits.
Oh wow.
There's a local bait builder here, and he's building beautiful musky baits and custom baits, and some of the baits they're just replicas. And anyways, my son's been teasing him online. He's been making comments about when he's out there filming his baits in the water. My son goes, oh, what kind of fish is that? Because they look so lifelike, right? And then when he catches fish, and my son always comments, oh, nice bait. Because if you can't.
That's hilarious. Obviously you had quite a few people come through. What was some of the more popular questions that you get asked? Like, what if there was one question that you hear a lot of, what would be one of them?
Well, how can I get it? Young people want to make a career, they were looking for jobs, and what can they expect? What kind of job opportunities is there in this sector? And my comment to that is, look, we're the second largest country in the world by land mass, next to Russia. We've got, a huge share of the water, fresh water. We've got the longest coastline in the world. We've got our boreal forest is the longest continuous boreal forest in the world. We have more nature, more water, more animals, wild animals. That's in relatively all in pretty good shape. But we need to, as things go on and the population of the world and whatever happens and things get, more and more sort of, just used, keeping nature wild and preserving what we have is going to become even more and more important. And I think as a nation, we're going to become more and more aware of that. And we're going to think more about long-term sustainable economic activity, which is tourism. And how do we sustain that tourism? By keeping nature wonderful and amazing. The hunting, the fishing, right? The camping, the canoeing, all that stuff. So I think there's an opportunity there. It may not seem like it right now. It may seem like, everything's about mining and oil extraction and so forth and forestry. But I think, we're going to see more and more. And we see that already, like I've said before, tourism in Northern Ontario is worth more than mining and forestry combined. And that message is going to get out. And we see this with the government of Ontario now. I mean, they're putting a lot of emphasis on the north, right? And what's going on in the north. And it should be.
And it's a great point you bring up, something that I think we don't value enough, and we certainly don't take seriously enough, but we are all tourist agents. We are all salesmen for this country of Canada, salespeople for this country of Canada.
Yeah.
So when they see our social media posts, and make no mistake about this, because I spoke to somebody from the UK who fell in love with Canada because of the availability of fish. He says, you live in the UK, you go fishing, there's no fish. He says, you could sit on the side of a bank and you could be there for 3 days and you won't even see a fish, let alone catch one.
Yeah.
He said, the minute I came to Canada, and I think my first 3 casts were 3 fish, he said, I was hooked. I was looking for property.
Yeah.
So make no mistake about it. And that was back when social media was not a thing.
Yeah. When
we are making posts, when we are doing videos, I think it's really important, and I'd like to take a moment now just to emphasize this point. We are all stewards of our nation. We are all sales agents for the country of Canada. So when they see you littering, folks that come and visit Canada will litter too. If they see you not respecting the resource, people who come and say, well, they're not doing it and they live here, so why should I do it?
Mm-hmm.
We are all setting an example, whether you like it or not. If you are on social media, if you are making posts, we are all brand ambassadors for this incredible country we call Canada, and we need to do better. So when it comes to littering, when it comes to overfishing, when it comes to not handling fish properly, doing the wrong thing, these are all things that not only aren't acceptable and illegal, but they just shine a very bright light on some of the negativity that we don't want to emphasize in this country. So if there's anything that I can say, just remind yourself every once in a while, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to be excited about catching fish.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
But when we start posting stuff that shows us not respecting the resource, not respecting the land, the water, and everybody else, it gets seen on a bigger stage. And we have to remember that, because this gentleman from the UK couldn't have mentioned it more. He says, I'm really surprised. And do you get to talk? He asked me, do you get to talk to some of these people that I find out that are fishing illegally, catching things out of season, taking too much home? Yeah. And I said, I wish we did. I wish we had the ability to stand before them and explain to them what they did was wrong. Not that they just broke the law and they possibly did harm to the resource, but that they're actually doing such a disservice for those of us who are doing the right thing. So
yeah, and leaving messes behind. No, it's a great point, Scottie. I know, like, I talked to a lot of those British people come over here for carp fishing on the shores of the St. Lawrence River, and they clean up after us. They get to the shore, and in the UK, if you leave a cigarette butt on the shore, you're banned from coming back.
Yeah.
Right. So they look at us, they go, oh my God, you know, and a lot of these plastic water bottles everywhere, and just, you know, worm containers and all of that. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
got
speaking of that though, the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters have posed 5 questions to the candidates running in the the provincial election. And I thought maybe we'd just touch on them quick because they're going to post the results, the feedback they're getting from these 5 questions from the different candidates, from the different parties on their website. So this is pretty cool stuff. You want me to just touch on them real quick?
Please do.
Okay. So they're saying in their lead up, fishing, hunting, and trapping, as a quarter of Canadians are engaged in fishing, hunting, and trapping in one way or another.
Okay.
$15.2 billion to the Canadian economy.
Okay.
1.2 million anglers and 400,000 hunters in Ontario alone. Here's the first question. So will Ontario, as a candidate, will you commit to making sure MNRF meets the money that's being brought in by fishing and hunting licenses, so matches that money and puts it in a consolidated fund to put back towards conservation, right? That's something we haven't seen in a while. All our fishing and hunting license money, they count that. That's supposed to go towards conservation. OFAH would like the MNRF, to match that money. So that's question number 1. And I think it's a good one,
That's
put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. I like that. That's interesting. Wow. Okay. What else are they saying?
Number 2 is, what will you do to recruit, retain, and bring back, people that have left hunting and fishing, to get them back into the sports, to bring new people into the sports, to make sure people that are in the sports now stay involved in the sports. What can you, as a government, do to make sure that happens? Because we all know numbers are going down as the boomers age out. So what are you doing to bring people back into it? Just ignoring them? Just doing nothing? No advertising? No marketing? We don't see that. We see, marketing for other sports, but we seldom, if ever, other than, hunting and fishing magazines and podcasts and newsletters and things like that. But we don't see it in the mainstream media. We don't see government advertising that. So this is something, getting people back into these sports. Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that you said there is, put your money where your mouth is. I mean, at the end of the day, it almost, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but sometimes we look at some of what we do and say as cliches, take a kid fishing. I know it's an easy thing to say, and it means so much, and it represents so much, but really, are we doing that? Are we taking enough kids fishing? Mm-hmm. I would tend to disagree that we are. I think we need to do more. And I will say, Lawrence, not to rob your time, but no. One of the things that I took the time with those parents who got on their knees and were helping their kids. They may not have known a lot, and then they'd be learning from the Reagans, the Reeses, the Steves, or Brads, whoever was there at the casting pond. But every parent that stood up after they helped their kid, I took the time to shake their hand or give them a hug and say thank you, because you have no idea what it means for us to see that, because we're trying to get to as many kids as we possibly can, and it's tough to try and keep a kid's attention span engaged for whatever time it takes at that casting pond. It is so much easier when the parents are involved. So to all you parents that came to the casting pond and helped your child, a big tip of the hat to you. You have no idea what it meant to see that. It was so awesome.
That's good. Nice call out, Mowdy. That's excellent. And it relates to question 3 here. What is the government doing to improve public access, like access to Crown roads, access to fishing shorelines, boat launches, parking for vehicles with their trailers? These sorts of things, again, often taken for granted, and we see the deterioration. And then we look, at videos and pictures south of the border and their boat launches. We think, oh my God, even on the south shore of the St. Lawrence River, the boat launches there below ours away, just night and day. And, we should be investing in these sorts of things for boating and fishing and spending time in nature and just shoreline access, especially in urban areas, right? I mean, the Toronto Urban Angling, ambassador, they've been fighting this, for years to keep shoreline access for fishing in Toronto for all those urban kids that don't have a chance to get out of the city.
Yep. And Dave Clark and his group, I can't thank you enough for all your efforts. Some of which I know it's an uphill battle. We've engaged it. Lawrence and I have engaged it. Jim, we've all engaged in it because it's not easy, but it is so worthwhile. Because at the end of the day, all we're doing is helping further the industry in the future. At the end of the day, it's all about protecting the resource. Well, it's also about making sure that we're ensuring the longevity of this industry, and we need to do that in a big way. After we saw that this weekend, how do you let that die, Lawrence? How do you let it die?
Oh yeah, it's one thing you have your tools, but if you can't get to the water, if you can't get to the forest, if you can't get out and actually access, it's all for nothing, right? And about preserving, this is the fourth point on the OFAH, is what are you going to do as a candidate, as a government, for conservation, towards conservation? What plans you have, what commitments are you going to make around conservation? Not protection, not fence it off, but conservation, making sure it's going to be around for the future and it's looked after and it's properly stewarded, and that there is some research is being done to make sure it's healthy and things aren't going sideways.
100%. But I will say the biggest question needs to be, where is your focus on the environment? Where is your focus on nature, the outdoors, on your in regards to your platform? Like, is housing number one? Is the economy where does the outdoors lay on that totem pole of importance that you're going to be calling your platform? Because if it's at the bottom, if we got to dig out the rest of the totem pole to find out where that is, then you're not the candidate for us.
And unfortunately, it often gets mixed in with environmentalism, right? And that which normally ranks around fourth or fifth, or even sixth on the priority list for politicians. Exactly. So basically nowhere. And conservation and mixed in with environmentalism, angling access, hunting access, mixed in with the environmental protection. It's all lumped together quite often. It's not the same. There's a role for environmentalism and bringing to light issues that we haven't thought about, or we haven't realized that are taking place. But there's a role for that. That's question number 5. Exactly, Scottie. The fifth question is, what is your party doing? Talk to me about what your party's doing.
Cool.
So these are interesting questions. I'm going to go and look, and next Monday after the vote, we'll know, and we'll see who said what.
Can't wait, Lawrence. Well, as always, dude, our time together with you flies by, but it means so much, and we're sad to see you go yet again on another Monday. But we're happy and cheerful to know that you're going to be back with us again Monday with a whole bunch of other things to talk about, including what it's going to look like going forward in the province of Ontario and what it means to the outdoors and us environmentalists that love fishing, hunting, and everything else that goes along with it.
Right on, buddy. Thanks.
You have yourself a great week. Great job this past weekend, my friend. Take some time off, kick your feet up, and get some rest.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. You too, man. Get your voice back. Holy mackerel.
No kidding. We got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor.
The Finisher is one of the most unique baits I've ever seen.
This bait is designed to fish for forward-facing sonar, and you work it with quick, snappy strokes with a rod tip on the semi-slack line to give it a nice side-to-side action.
The lateral movement is insane.
It may go right twice, then left, then up, then down. I mean, it's all over the place.
Not only can you cast it out in front of the boat and fish it back towards you, you can also fish it vertically, so it allows you to change on the fly.
The thing that I really like about this bait is some of these fish are suspended. We might be in 30 to 35 feet of water. These fish might be 10 feet off the bottom. And this thing sinks a little bit slower than your typical real heavy glide baits. But what it allows you to do is keep the bait above those suspended fish.
You see a fish on your sonar and it might be out there 80, 90, 100 feet. This thing casts like a little bullet.
It also gets down to the fish very fast because it tends to tilt nose down and it sinks.
I can keep it down there in the strike zone and work it side to side, super aggressive. Man, it generates a bunch of bites.
It really is amazing at getting fish to react that you would not catch otherwise.
Jay Barnucz is in the house, the one and only.
Dude, your voice is coming back just a little bit. You just warm up to Lawrence there just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a tad. Appreciate that, Jay. And of course, missed you this weekend at the Ottawa show. But somehow, some way, you felt like you were still there. There was lots of Berkeley running around. Lots of folks that are very similar to you in our industry that I love talking to. So you know what? Even though you weren't there physically, you were there sort of in spirit. And as I said, it was an awesome show nonetheless. But before we get started, I know there was an Elite Series event that just happened this past weekend. And Bill Lowen, did he prevail and end up winning?
Oh, dude, I should share my picture. Just let me share a picture here. So, and it's really too bad that the big guy's not here tonight because this really sums it up. So this is Bill Lowen. So Bill is a 20-year vet on the Bassmaster Elite Tour. It's his second Elite Series win, and he caught it throwing a swim jig and a flipping jig. And on Saturday morning, like I went ice fishing on Sunday. We'll talk about that. But on Saturday morning, I got up. I thought there's always a honey-do list, right? So I'm going to hang around the house. And I thought, I'm going to make myself a coffee and I'm going to watch Bassmasters. Then the event was 4 days long, and I didn't watch the first 2 days hardly at all. Saturday morning, I'm sitting there on a cold February morning, and I'm watching Bill Lowen catching bass on a swim jig, and I had to text, Owen and Trevor, and I'm like, boys, who would rather be fishing a swim jig right now than staring down a hole? And I got a whole bunch of high fives. So, we love ice fishing, but dang, man, it's good to see, and it's good to see when old guys win. And the tournament this weekend though was cool because the Elite tournament, I remember last year Scottie was all forward facing sonar talk, and we got tired of it. It was honestly very cool that we got to see so many typical bass tactics sort of went up with sort of prevailed. There was some jerkbait fishing, which is kind of a new thing for Florida, but you saw guys throwing Brock Mosley throwing a chatterbait, Bill Lowen throwing swim jigs. Who else was in the top 10? John Cox, Gerald Swindle. But then there was Jay Shakirak who gave a run. And in the end, Bill Lowen won by 4 ounces and only got 4 fish on the last day. I don't know about you, man, but that was pretty cool to see all that go down and in Florida too. So it's neat. Good stuff.
And what was really cool is that those of us who are fans and we sit back and we're watching our phones, we're watching the live broadcast, we're watching Dave Mercer do his thing. And then you take stock of everybody around you. And there's Dave Chong watching it live. He's a complete fan. There's Big Jim getting updates. Yeah. Complete fan. So young or old, novice or pro, we're all fans. No matter what fish are being caught, we just love seeing it, and we love seeing who wins. And I will say, Bill, we were all concerned that you weren't going to be able to pull it out. But I'll tell you, we're just as happy to find out that you did. So awesome.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I'm kind of stuck in the middle, right? I'm 50 now, so I'm stuck in the middle between the old school and the new school a little bit. I find, but seeing Bill Lowen do well, and I was cheering for Bill, and I didn't pick him in my fantasy team. I won't lie, I didn't do that great in my fantasy fishing is like fantasy football. I don't know. Every year I wonder why I do it. But I can't help myself. But yeah. You end up just cheering for a bunch of the top 10 anglers were just a real who's who. Corey Johnson was in the top 10. It was just a real broad generational spread of anglers in that top 10. And I thought for the first event of the year, I thought it went really well just for that alone. It just kind of great way to kick off the year for Bassmaster and for all of us bass fans, right? So
100%. Couldn't agree more.
So I got to do something. I didn't even talk about this pre-show because I didn't even mention this, Scottie, but I'm going to bring it up now. There's a cool little company that I'm gonna just give a little prop to right now. It's called The Folk, and I put their website in the chat, folk.ca, and they make, so down here in Norfolk, they make all kinds of folk gear. So they have like beach folk, paddling folk, tobacco folk, like everything's very Norfolk centric, but everyone is a folk of some kind, right, Scottie? So the link I put in is all their fishing folk gear. So they make fishing folk. And they came up with this jersey. Look at this. This is a limited edition this year.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Out on the hard water, ice fishing Lake Erie, the folk. And they did this limited edition run of these sweatshirts. Heather got Trevor and I these as a Valentine's Day gift. And I totally wanted to give a shout out. Well, one, to Heather for buying this for Trevor and I, but two, for the folk. And I'm going to tell you, if you're a fishing folk, which many of you would put yourself as a fishing folk, you don't need to be from Norfolk. Check out the swag on their website, and they're a local company out of Norfolk right here, and they're just a great bunch of people. And you can buy fridge magnets and stickers and all kinds of stuff. And if everyone on here is good folk, and they're going to love their website, so go check it. I have no affiliation with them. I just think they're real cool people. So.
Love when you do stuff like that, Jay. As I said, that's what we want to do here. It's what we're all about with CFN. Giving a shout out to the little guys doing some great things. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
George, you're right. I won't give in, dude. I told Heather today, I'm going to be 25 the rest of my life, whether I want to believe it or not. You know, even if anyone listened to my playlist, you're basically coming out of somewhere around 1998. Is about my playlist all the time, so that's not going to change. But and Joe, absolutely, it was great meeting you at the Spring Fishing Show. I want to give you a shout out. And yes, Jägermeister is medicinal. Now, a 25-year-old me used to partake in a lot of medicinal things, especially Jägermeister at 25. So I will give Jägermeister, and Jägermeister is best served ice cold out of the freezer. And a good swift shot of Jägermeister will always help.
Jay, so, is this one of these reels that we see on Instagram and YouTube where we listen and we don't judge?
Yes, yes. That's it. All right, I'm going to give another quick update, dude. I'm going to have to share one more screen here, and then I'll stop. I'll stop screen sharing. So it's now official. This is official. This is the official launch of the Norfolk County Kayak Anglers. So Bass is now recognized us as a formal club. So we are the first kayak Bassmaster local club in Ontario. So folks might know about the Ontario Kayak Bassmasters, Scottie. They're a province-wide club, and they were started by John Dean. And John Dean did that so that you could have a club to bring kayakers across Ontario together. But I think it was always John's thought that this large Ontario-wide club would sprout small clubs, just like there's 25 plus bass boat clubs in Ontario, right? Bassmaster boat clubs. And this hasn't happened. And then talking with Trevor and Owen and a couple of their friends, they were like, they had these big plans to go travel across Ontario and fish these pro tournaments this year, and I kayak tournaments, and they'll fish a few, but I'm like, guys, you don't have the time or the resources to go there. You got to go to school. You got things to do. And I said, why don't we just start our own club? You need 6 guys. That's it. And we actually started with 6, and we're already growing. We'll probably have over a dozen members by the end of the month, like end of this week. And we're going to be based out of Long Point, so it'll be like Lake Erie, I'm going to probably try and put some boundaries on the events about kind of like mouth of the Grand. So mouth of the Grand over to like Long Point Bay. And there's a lot of water in there to fish, right? And And yes, we're getting a lot of interest from folks in the Niagara area, Hamilton area, and local here, of course. And so, I think that, and we're actually scheduling our events around the big kayak tournaments in Ontario. So if members want to go fish, and I want to fish a few of them too, because I love fishing those events, we will, but we're going to have a local group right here. And what's cool, Scottie, talking about young anglers, is that we're getting a lot of interest from sort of anglers in their mid to late teens who can't afford a bass boat, and they have a kayak though, and they want to come out. So I want to try and structure some of the events that you don't need like a battleship kayak to compete. Try and maybe do some events on some smaller inland waters for some of the guys who only have a paddle kayak, for example. So yeah, we're gonna make it work. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
That's one of the takeaways too from this past weekend. Aaron Dodds was one of the presenters, and of course, being part of the staple in the kayak industry, community, whatever you want to call it. He went on to explain, and so did Ashley Ray, about how easy it is to get into kayak fishing. And I will say, based on boats, tariffs, and just the general nonsense that's going on in the world, kayak fishing is something that is growing. And it's not just growing, it's growing exponentially. So for those who are, teetering, do I really want to get involved in this? This now provides yet another opportunity for you to get involved in a group so that you can learn. You can learn amongst kayakers. You're not going to be spoken to or down to. You're going to be spoken at and done so in a way that will allow you to. So I think this is so awesome. Talking to Darren from Das King this past weekend, listening to Aaron, listening to Ashley, listening to you and Trevor, I have to admit, if there, as much as this fat ass doesn't want to get in one of those things, one of these days I'm going to have to, just because you guys have done.
You're going to have to, dude. I'm telling you, it's like, even from the Bass, why we chose Bassmaster, like we could have gone any way with this. Why we chose Bassmaster was, one, we still get to, because the Ontario Championship, Kayak Championship, it's open to all BASS members in Ontario. So no matter where we are, as long as we're part of a bass club, we get to fish that event. So selfishly, I want a chance to go down south again, even though Owen went last time and I drove his butt down there. He could drive me next time. I already told him. If I qualify, he's driving me. But, beyond that, what makes it great is, there's a lot of kayak anglers across Ontario who are members of BASS. And let's say they're coming to vacation in Long Point this summer and we have a tournament, they can hop in because they're a Bass member. Does that make sense, Scottie? Like any Bass member, and you don't even have to be a Bass Kayak Club member. If you are a BASS member in, let's say, Hamilton Bassmasters, and you got a kayak and you like to kayak fish on the side, come on down to one of our events, come hang out with us. Like, that's the whole point of this. It's to build that part of the sport. I know there's a few kayak anglers in Ontario that I've met the last few years. Oh, Miguel's on here. Migsig's on here. Good to see Miguel. So I will say, like, there's guys like Nelson, who a lot of you guys know in the kayak world. He wants to come down and fish Lake Erie with us. And I'm like, dude, come on down. Like, come fish one of our events or just come hang out with us. Like, we're going to be out almost every weekend that we're not working or something else. And so we invite people to come down here. And I want to go fish with others too. Like, I need to make more time to do that. So this whole kayak, I hope that us starting this first local club is basically a challenge to others to start their local clubs too. And it's taking nothing away from Ontario Kayak Bassmasters. I still want to be part of that province-wide group, right, Scottie? Like, but the local clubs will help to grow this sport even more. And so I predict that I've been talking to anglers from Essex County, anglers from like the Quinte area, Kawartha area, and they're like, yeah, you just need 6 guys to start a club. And then they put out a schedule and anybody can participate if you're a BASS member. It's awesome. So we're going to grow the sport, dude. If I have to drag everyone kicking and screaming to the lake, I will grow this sport any way I can.
Well, you certainly have. And I will say there are some admirable people doing some admirable things as well alongside you. And as I mentioned, 2 of which that we saw this weekend made it seem effortless, almost like it's too easy to get involved in the kayak fishing. Like anybody could do it. And really, at the end of the day, almost anybody can.
Yeah.
That's
And I have to do this now because, dude, as much as I prepared for this show, Scottie, I just keep jumping around here with ideas. So I'm sharing a link. Sig's on the line here. Mig, so I want to give you a shout out, buddy. Like Mig's done his own company, Sig Outdoors. He does his own clothing line. He also does a lot of custom Bass Club jerseys, or fishing jerseys as well. So, and he's a great guy. So if people are looking for some apparel or just supporting a great guy, go to his website, follow him on Facebook, follow him on Instagram. He's always having raffles and stuff on his Facebook page. I got to get some sun gloves off him this year. And he sells those big straw hats. You know what I'm talking about, Scottie? Like the old man needs one of those straw hats. I think it's going to be good. I tried one on last year, and my fat melon kind of didn't want to come out of it. So Mig's like, I'm going to get you a proper one that fits you. So, because I like to I'm a bit of a bull in a china shop, Scottie. I like to just force things on. So, and so I've challenged Mig to, oh, you met Scottie this week at the kids casting pond. Sweet. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys connected. So, yeah, great guy. And I know I'm going to see Mig at CanCast. So I'm looking forward to seeing him there for sure. That's great.
And this is the thing. You just when you think that this industry is massive, that the fishing community is massive, it is very small. And when you get to meet some of these, I will say, integral people that are doing some fantastic things, like yourself, like some of the people that I met this past weekend, it is so cool to be a part of. And we are on the cusp. We are on the cusp of growing something. And with the kayak community, my Lord, you guys are growing.
Dude, you got listen, right now you got Chris Totosco on the line, who's the most winningest kayak guy in Ontario right now. So shout out to Chris.
We're not worthy.
Dude,
we're not
Trevor and Owen are sizing you up, man. They are ready to take you on in all positive way, dude. But they want to take you down, like so, and they love competition. So Chris, you raise the bar, dude, and we love you for that, because like that's what drives competition is just having consistent anglers out there. And Chris, in a kayak, you're a force right now. There's some great kayak anglers out there, but Chris, your consistency is something to behold. I'm going to tell you that. So good.
And he was, as a partner to Moose, he was always a good stick. Oh, always up there, always competitive. But with this kayak fishing, he's found his niche. This is something that Chris not only did really well this past year, but will continue to do well.
Well, and the thing about Chris is, I'll say this. I don't know Chris really well. Like, I've got to know you a bit more, Chris, but I'm going to tell you right now, like, Chris, he loves fishing, and he's just a great guy. Like he sometimes nice guys do finish first, Scottie. You know what I mean? And like Chris, and you can tell, Chris, you love fishing, and that is honestly, it shows in what you do, and you're a humble guy at the same time. So yeah, love it, man. And but props to like John Dean. I'm going to give John Dean a shout out too, because I'm not going to lie, even though he started the Ontario Kayak Bassmasters, he pushed me to start this new club when I brought it up to him. I'm like, why don't we do this? And he goes, I'll be one of your members. So John's one of our first members, even though he doesn't even live near me. I needed a sixth BASS member to join to get things going. And he's helped us get the club off the ground, help with some of the background work. And he's just been a great guy to chat with in the background about getting it going. So shout out to John Dean as well. So yeah, we're growing the sport. And we got guys like Chris, John, and Mig, who you met. Dude, solid weekend. Yeah, dude, come on down to Fish Erie with us. It's going to be great. And I know Jeff's Jigs is going to be Jeff Penner is going to join our club, at least join us for some events. So we want to get you guys out tossing some hair jigs on Lake Erie with us this summer. That'd be fantastic. So,
well, listen, if you need a rescue boat or anybody to sort of be there, like I'll be that guy.
All right.
So I'll have the tow line. I'll have all your electrolytes, food.
Love it.
5-gallon pail. If you
definitely need electrolytes, buddy. I'm going to give a shout out. Oh, joining shortly. Sweet. All right. Well, I look forward to hearing more about that, Chris. Fantastic, buddy. Mark Penner's there too. Yeah. And so shout out to Jeff's Jigs, because Jeff has offered to sponsor our club. I'm not sure what that's going to entail, but dude, I catch a lot of bass on his hair jigs, so I'm not going to say no to a sponsorship from Jeff Jigs. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with the economy at the moment, expecting, yeah, exactly. Serge, like getting into a kayak, man, like it is. And kayak fishing, Scottie, is just like any other segment of the sport. It's as much as you want to put into it, that you can go all out with your kayak, or you can keep it simple or anywhere in between. So, I think there's some great starting points out there. I think for a lot of anglers, starting with a good pedal drive helps. But yeah, you don't have to go all out. And especially with these smaller clubs, I want to really encourage clubs to like try and get anglers in and get them started, and then let them meet some of the guys who've been around in the industry for a while on the kayak side. And I think that's how we're going to grow it too. So it's awesome. Nice.
It's growing right before our eyes. Well done, Jay.
Back to, dude, I want to talk about walleye with you for a minute. Walleye, man. I hate not being able to share news reports on the chat board. I'll talk about it. So there's a writer from Ohio, and it's from the Toledo Blades, from Toledo. He's one of their outdoor writers, and his name is Mac Arnold. And it's awesome to see. He's like, basically, I'll read the headline. Outdoors headline, fishermen still out on the ice, but the walleye run anticipated soon. Dude, it's almost March. The walleye are going to start moving soon, and everyone's still ice fishing. It's kind of a really flip-flop year, isn't it?
I have to ask, it's a great segue too, Jay, because I know you want to start talking about the weather, because I think it's something that's on everybody's mind right now. There is a bit of a change going on across Canada. We're starting to see warmer temperatures. What is that doing to the ice right now, and how is that perhaps maybe vaulting us into an early spring?
Well, I'm getting a lot of mixed reports from mostly Ontario, man. And I'm going to say that basically what we're seeing is now we're just getting these warm trends. And I don't think we're not going to see ice leave anytime soon. Like, God, I heard rumors of guys having, 1.5 foot or more of ice on parts of Simcoe. Even down here, we're drilling through 12 inches of ice, close to 12 inches on Sunday. That's Lake Erie, some of the nearshore stuff. So I know there's some concern with some of the warm weather. We're not going to lose ice that quickly with that much ice, but it does change things. We've had so much snow this year that what I worry is going to happen is we've had all this slush build up on the big lakes. And that makes it hard for anglers, especially anglers on foot or on ATVs, unless you have tracks. So that's going to make it hard. It makes it hard for operators. I'm going to really recommend that anglers get out. If they have permanent huts, try and get out there and try and make sure things are stabilized and propped up. And until the big snows last week and lots of slush and difficult traveling now. Yeah, absolutely. And I saw a crazy stat today that even Lake Huron, Georgian Bay had pretty good ice coverage, but these high winds we've had the last few days have really broken that up. There's still lots of ice to fish on, but now you got more open water again, and you're going to get more lake effect snow with some of the colder temps that are coming this weekend, which means more snow inland could be a problem. So, man, we are not out of the woods yet, but definitely we are in. I think we're getting towards the finish line, but I think it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I still think we're weeks away from any kind of ice out, but we need things to change a bit. We need that snow to pack down or to melt to get things to kind of smooth things out for everybody, especially the operators.
It's almost hard to believe, Jade, that it's March. Honestly, I think we sat here not too long ago. It seems like just last week, wishing everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And it's March. The groundhog's seen his shadow or not seen his shadow. Now we're talking about, big snows, something that we didn't see early on in December, November, like sometimes we do. But here we are. We are right dead set right in the middle of winter. And all of a sudden it's March. People are going to have March break. They're going to be booking trips down south if that's their thing. I just can't believe how fast this year is going, but it's nice to hear that you're still having anglers report back that they've got 10, 12, 14, 18 inches of ice. And with that snow still on top of it, a lot of that is going to be insulated. I'd like to think it's just the amount of runoff that's going to go along with it to see how messy it's going to get.
Yeah, it's all about the slush now at this point. Like, and I've been out in that situation many times, and well, geez, dude, I read a stat. This is snow related, but it made me think about my times where I've got stuck in slush, and there was some sort of like 30 in somewhere near Newmarket. I read that there was 30 heart attack cases in the last 15 or 12 days because of all the snow shoveling. Like, and if anyone has ever been stuck in slush on a machine on a frozen lake, you know what it's like to be close to a coronary. Like, it is bad news, man. Like, I wish that on nobody. I wish that on nobody. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. George, you saw the operator pull the huts off Dalrymple. I believe it. And I've heard a few operators on Simcoe are maybe they're not shutting down yet, like closing up shop yet. But let's be honest, guys. They got to get their huts off March 15th, which is 3 weeks away, barely 3 weeks away. And, you know, they've had a good winter as can be expected. Like, we were late starting, but we got lots of ice. And it becomes a lot of work for all the operators. And I know that I think you're going to see a lot of guys pulling them off early this year. And I shared with you before the show about in Minnesota, March 3rd is the deadline to get huts off. But the DNR up there is pleading with anglers to start taking them off now because of all the slush and the warm weather coming. And it's not because of the lack of ice. It's because of the difficulty to get them off when things get really bad. So,
Gee, what happens if let's say we get minus 20-degree weather across the board? Like, all of the stuff is going to be frozen solid in the ice unless it's propped up, right?
Yeah, and then unless it's been propped up properly. And I know if you can't get to your hut to prop it up properly, you're not going to be able to. So you're going to have to go out there and basically like take an axe to it or a sawzall to it to get it out, right? Like, that's crazy. So yeah, it's not a good time. And I'm not saying all of these areas are in rough shape. There's where it is bad is where we've been getting these repeated snow squalls, Scottie. Like down here, what's happening down here is kind of it's a different problem. So down here, we're getting all the winds are causing pressure cracks to open up. So we have lots of ice on the inner bay of Lake Erie, inner bay of Long Point, but there's pressure cracks where they're just heaving open because of the wind. The winds, it's like, if anyone else remember like grade 6 geography, like earthquakes and mountains are caused by tectonic plates shifting, right? So pressure cracks, ebb and flow of pressure cracks. And down here, we're getting a lot of pressure cracks opening up. And it's really, really hard on the operators. And I'm curious how it's going to impact the fishing down here, because you can always get over a pressure crack, but you got to get back. I don't like playing roulette with that stuff myself. Like, I cross pressure cracks all the time, but I was out Sunday morning. We were going to go pike fishing, Scottie. I'll tell a short story. And I had two buddies coming down to fish with me, 3 guys. They're coming meet me. And I got to the spot by myself, and I saw what was a pressure crack last weekend. There's ducks swimming in it. I'm like, damn ducks. So, but there was some spots of the pressure crack that were narrow. So I walked up to it, dude, and I walk up. I'm by myself, which may not be the brightest thing, but it was only about 100 yards offshore. I got my picks, I got my spud, I got my flotation suit on, and I'm spudding. I'm right up to the crack. I give it 2 whacks, don't go through, whack again, don't go through, hit where the crack is, and it was like putting literally a hot knife through butter. The spud just went whoop, like, and I have it wrapped around my wrist, and I'm like, oh shit. So then on the other side, the ice looked kind of soft. So I started whacking the other side of the pressure crack, and it didn't go through on the first swing, but after I pulled it out on the first swing, you could see the water like trickling through. And so, yeah, I could have stepped over it, but if I had my sled with me, maybe that would have been a different story, right? So I'm not gonna push it. So that is what it is. So,
Joe, you bring up a great point and an even better question. Jay and I have talked about this sort of behind the scenes, not up front, but I think it's probably a great time to talk about this, because to Jay's point, we were just talking about the snow squalls, the amount of snow that we have in certain areas. For those flood-prone areas, Jay, you and I have talked about it. I have talked to others, especially in the Apple area. and some other areas. And I know you have done the same. When it comes to this spring, if we have a typical spring where we have the gradual warm up, what have you, or perhaps maybe we get a quick warm up, are we going to see flooding this year? And the answer to that question is not only are we going to see it, it's how bad is it going to be?
I think what we have to think about, and the issue with, so folks need to realize that most of the river system, like most of these lakes are river systems. They're not standalone lakes. Like the big lakes, Joe, you're thinking about are like Joseph, Lake Muskoka, and all those big lakes up there, they're all connected, okay, for the most part. And so and even the small lakes are connected too. Like, and because everything just trickles down. Like I think about where we cottage up in Barry's Bay. All those lakes are connected to the Madawaska River, for example. It's all regulated. Like it's all controlled. There are some hydro dams, but there's also flood control structures. And it's really hard to get it right because if you hold back too much water, the lakes, when the ice out happens, the cottagers flood. But then if you let too much water out, people downstream get impacted. And so I think that the folks that regulate those water levels are going to have a heck of a time this spring. But that all depends on how fast it melts. Like there's so many variables, right? Like when we talk about it's basically a hydrologic model, Scottie. So when we talk about like fisheries management, we have models, right? We look at young of the year, we look at recruitment, we look at growing degree days, all these things. Well, hydrology is just as bad. And so you have how much solar radiation, how much wind, how much snow have we had? What was the water table at before we had snowpack? What's going to happen after the snow melts? How much ice is on top of the lakes? There's so many variables to consider, but I think it's definitely a tough job. And I'm curious what will happen. I hope that we see some water level rebound because I know down here we have not had a lot of water the last couple of years, and the falls have been very dry. I was checking water levels on the Thames today because this is the time of year that I like to go walleye fishing. And it looks like things are relatively low right now, but we haven't had a thaw. So, and we know everywhere's got snow. And just so everyone understands, like where the Thames headwaters are, that's also the headwaters for the Saugeen, for the Sauble. Like that's all around like Dundalk area, like Luther Marsh, like that's the headwaters for the Grand. Like that high spot in Ontario is the high spot for everything. And there's a butt ton of snow up there. So when it comes, it's going to come fast and furious. I hope it doesn't. A slow thaw is better than a fast thaw, but who knows what'll happen. And rain makes it worse, right? You talked about that storm that's coming this week. They're not calling for a lot of rain, but that's what will impact the flooding. And I think it's better to be a slow soaker, let that water soak in, than let it all wash away.
100%. And I would have to say, too, in the areas that have received a lot of lake effect snow, yes, you're going to have a dicey spring. And it'll be interesting to see how bad the flooding is. But if we receive any more system snow, especially across the province of Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes, I think it's inevitable that we're going to see flooding just about everywhere. So let's hope that whatever we do get is rain. Let's hope we get the gradual warm up that Jay is suggesting, and we don't see any more system snow. Because I think if we do, we're going to see some pretty bad flooding.
Yeah, like I don't know about where you are, but even down in Burlington, like I took a walk outside today at work because it was like 6 degrees, but it's cold, dude. Like that wind's coming off the harbor, and it's like I'm glad I had my toque and gloves, to be honest, even though it's 6 degrees out. But the snowbanks down there, like I know it's piled up because of the machines, but even where there's no machines piled, like there's still over like 2 feet of snow in spots, right? Like it's like for Hamilton, dude, that's a lot of snow, and it's got to go somewhere. So, and everywhere's got snow like that right now in Southern Ontario. So, but it's melting fast. Like on the drive home today, along the edge of the country roads, like the snowbanks from the drifting snow is as high as the vehicle, but there's grass showing at the bottom of the snowbank, right? So it's melting that fast with this warm wind and sunshine. So
and the importance too of this, exactly what George is saying. In 4 months we'll be talking about forest fires and drought. You're right.
Yeah.
You're always right. I will say too, what I do like about this higher water levels, and maybe you can speak to it too, Jay, is it sets up for what could be a really good spawn. Not to say that we need a better one down in Lake Erie or any of the north tributaries of Lake Ontario, but if you have that water, there is a good chance we will have a very good spawn.
Well, yeah, let's look at. I want to talk about yellow perch for a second, because for a few years now, their recruitment has been dropping off in Lake Erie, and they've reduced limits in some jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and Ohio. Now, and they thought the reason why there's been a decline in perch recruitment was because of the lack of ice cover and how that impacts their spawning, and also how it impacts like the larval yellow perch in their diet. Mm-hmm. Well, now we've had ice, right? We've actually had a relatively normal winter as ice cover goes. So I am curious. Now, we won't see results of the surveys that are in 2025. We won't see those for a couple years, but it'll be interesting to see if some of those trends start to flip-flop the other way and we have a better recruitment period. But overall, Scottie, lots of water is good, because in some areas, like I'm going to say for steelhead streams where we've had a little flow, sometimes you need a bit of an enema to flush things out. Like you get that silt buildup and you need to keep things clean. And we need it. Absolutely, Chris. Like I think that down here, we haven't had a really big rain and a big melt for months. And it's time for us to flush out some of the creeks. And it's going to help any of the riffle spawning fish, like walleye included. And suckers, like all the fish that the predators feed on. This is going to be good for all of them. I think it's going to be good to see it kind of get washed out. So
very cool.
Yeah, that's true. So George makes a good point. Predicting the spawns is hard, because we are crap at predicting spawning success until the fall at the earliest. So there you go. So like the water levels can't get any lower from what they've been, at least here in Southern Ontario, George. So I'm thinking about the Lake Ontario tribs and the Lake Erie tribs, and even last fall, the Lake Huron tribs were very low. So we could use some water down here, but spawning success, water helps, Scottie, but there's so many variables to it, right? So we'll see. Yeah.
Very true. John Anderson shared with us, we talk about takeaways and some of the things that we learned today. What's the one thing that you learned today? And I had to take a second look, because when John Anderson was talking about the migration of muskie, I had no freaking idea that they had started down in the Gulf of Mexico and had moved their way up the Mississippi, and eventually finding home here in the Great Lakes and, of course, some of the surrounding bodies of water. Did you know that?
No. But so I didn't know that, but we have to, one of the things in my job that I get sort of asked questions a lot about is, how do fish get to where they are? So remember, Scottie, 8,000 years ago, we were under a kilometer of ice, right? Yep. The Great Lakes weren't even here. We were literally iced in. And in fact, you didn't even see the ice went as far south as about northern or southern Tennessee. Somewhere in Tennessee is where the ice shelf went down to. And then it receded. And so there's fish populations in basically Tennessee south that have never seen glaciers. And in those parts of the Appalachians, there's fish that have never they've been evolving for like 20,000 years because no one's bothered them, right? Whereas we have so many, our lakes in Ontario are very fresh and new, geologically speaking. So a good example of this is one of the studies that I was part of years ago with some colleagues from M&R was looking at ciscos and looking at some of the rare ciscos, not lake cisco like Coregonus artidae, but shortjaw cisco like Coregonus zenithicus and others, where basically what they were part of, Scottie, was, and these species still exist in the Great Lakes proper, but they also existed inland. And we believe that this is like, there's sort of some hypothesis out there, but it's believed that they moved across. There was a connecting channel between the French River and all the way to the Ottawa, which is part of Lake Nipissing right now, right? And that open river extended across the top of Algonquin Park. So several lakes in Algonquin, like Kiosque, North T, White Partridge Lake, Lake Travers, and the Petawawa River itself, like all that was part of this giant outwash plain, it was called. So imagine as the ice receded, there was a massive river that connected Georgian Bay and the Ottawa River. And all the fish were distributed that way. And then as the ice receded and the land had the weight released, it called rebound, those lakes became isolated. And those fish were stuck in those lakes. And this is all fish biogeography of Ontario. This is like biogeography 101 for fish in Ontario. And so muskies and all the native fish that we know all came that way around the ice somehow. And so John's not wrong, because like, I don't know the true origin of muskie. I'm not saying John's wrong, but if you think about it, everything was iced in. The only way a lot of fish came to be in the Great Lakes was basically from either the St. Lawrence River, Scottie. So as the ice receded, you have to kind of picture the Great Lakes. And as the ice moves north, areas opened up to allow fish in, right? Yeah. So there was areas like the St. Lawrence, and then even the Mississippi River, the headwaters in Illinois and in Indiana, and then into Ohio. At one point, the Mississippi was also part of the Great Lakes. And then as the ice melted, the land rebounded and the Mississippi became separate from the Great Lakes. And then we became our own watershed at that point. Does that make sense? So John's not wrong. I would wonder if they came all the way from the Gulf of Mexico, but they probably for sure came from the Mississippi, and they were at one point had to make it into the Great Lakes. But I'm going to look more into that to find out just how accurate that is. And I don't want to say John's wrong, because John is such an intelligent guy, but I am curious about that theory and if that's true or not. And but I wouldn't doubt it if it was. I'm going to fact check that, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No, and it makes perfect sense, because I mean, yeah, you and I and Jim and Lawrence have shared a lot of information over the years, and every once in a while you'll think back as we mentioned something. Oh yeah, we did talk about that. But one thing that I can't say that we've ever spoken about is the origin of, say, muskie or walleye, or any other species of fish.
About that.
We have never the origin of it. And when I heard that this weekend, it was like, wow, that's interesting. I never knew that. That's pretty cool.
You know, one of my first managers at Fisheries and Oceans was Nicholas Mandrak, and Nick is a fish biogeography expert. Like, I could sit and talk about fish origins with him, and he's actually working in Africa right now. But I'm going to send him an email about how did muskies. I'm serious, because Nick will know, or if he doesn't know, because I'm super curious about this, because bass are bass. Bass get moved around, but muskies don't get moved around as much as bass. And, you know, they're very Great Lake centric. They're inland lakes, but they're very centered on the main water bodies. And I'm curious how they got here. And I believe they came from the Mississippi, but did they come this way or did they come this way? Either way is a long journey. Yeah. Or did they go both ways? Right? So I'm going to look into it, dude. I'm going to do some homework and try and find some information about that. That's a cool, very cool piece of information, John. I like that a lot.
So as I said, guys and gals, if you are interested, watch some of those seminars that were shared this past week. A lot of work and effort was put into some of them. Lisa, who's on here tonight, and a number of others that we featured as well. Please go back and watch them. They're only around for 30 days, from what I understand from Facebook and Facebook Live. So please, I encourage you to listen to them. They're well worth every second that you will. There's a lot of incredible information. So cool stuff.
Very cool, man.
Jay, as always, I know you're busy, but what have you got going on this week?
Oh, dude, I'm feeling kind of down about this whole win with the pressure cracks. I got some spots I want to go. I want to try and get some pre-spawn pike on tip-ups. I'm desperate, but I'm not giving up on them yet. Like, dude, I could go pound crappies and bluegills next weekend, but I really want to catch a giant northern on tip up again. Like that's been fun this winter. So I need some of this snow to melt so I can check out some access, because some of the access points I want to check are like snowed in from snowplows, right? Like everything's snowed in. So if this warm weather this week can knock down some of that snow, I'm hoping I can, and I'll be on foot, dude. It'll be like, I know I'm getting skinnier, but I'm still pretty big. I do a lot. I'm going to burn some serious calories trying to find some of those pike. But yeah, hopefully this weekend I'm going to try that, because I thought about going walleye fishing in the rivers. I'm not even joking, dude.
I know.
But I'm seeing highs of like -8 and lows of -12 on the weekend. And that's a little cold for river walleye for me. I like it when it's like, I don't mind -5 or 0, maybe like morning lows of -5 where it gets up to 0 in the afternoon. But that's a lot of ice in the guides when I'm chucking swim baits around. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to go and I'm going to try and find some northern pike this weekend. I also have a hot lead on some interesting crappie fishing in the Southwest too right now. So there's stuff going down, dude. I'm gonna make one more some ice fishing. So
I've never known the Barnucz family not to have options. So as always, you have lots of choices to make, and I'm so glad I don't have to be you to make those choices. But I will say this, Jay, thanks so much for coming to our show tonight, prepared.
Yeah.
With everything that's gone on this past weekend, Jim's computer going on the fritz. You came prepared, and you certainly helped us get through tonight. So I appreciate that.
Before I leave, you got to highlight George's comment. George is already in the background Googling this up. I love the guy. Walleye came out of the Mississippian refugium. So from the Mississippi River, Scottie, that's how walleye got here. They came east and west around the Great Lakes, and the two populations met at present-day Chapleau. So there you go. And that's published information that experts agree on. So walleye came from the Mississippi into the Great Lakes, and they invaded naturally through the refugia, through when waters were connected. So now I got to go do some muskie homework.
Right on, dude.
We'll talk next week, buddy.
Can't wait, my friend. You enjoy your week. Say hi to the rest of the family. Stay safe.
Dude, get some rest. Get some meds in you, and we'll talk to you soon. All right.
Sounds good, buddy. We'll do.
All right.
I'm going to listen to Jay. I'm going to listen to all of you. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to rest this voice as best I can. But Wednesday, we are going to be talking to either the Elliott Lake group or the Wawa group in regards to their derby. So stay tuned to that. Not to mention, we had quite a few folks that were part of our Made in Canada tackle show this past weekend in Ottawa that also have stepped up and said, is there any way that I can get a little bit more promotion from our product? And I said, yes, we're always looking for content on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays are going to be just as popular as our Mondays, but nothing will replace the crew of three that I have, Lawrence, Jim, and of course, Jay Barnucz. I can't thank these lads enough for all they do. And of course, all of you CFNers that support us in ways that I can't even begin to thank you for. Keep up the great work. Can't thank you enough. Have yourselves a great week. Love you all. And on that note, I am going to take a moment to thank the one and only Dave Mercer, because as Steve can attest to this, all the videos that I watched, the ones that I watched the most are listening to him introduce the anglers in bass. There is a man with incredible talent that far exceeds any of the talents I have or most people. But Dave, you do a kick-ass job, and we thank you for it. And while you're not so busy, can you say goodnight to us and take us away? Have yourselves a great week. Love you all. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.